Hi, my name is Tony Young and welcome to this episode of HuntFlorida TV. This coming deer season, we've got some major deer changes that I want to make sure all you hunters know about. Last season, if any of you guys were hunting over in Zone D, then you're very familiar with deer management units and how last season Zone D was divided into two deer management units with Interstate 10 dividing the two units. The North Unit D2 went to a 3-point on the side rule for legal to take bucks. South of I-10, D1 went to a 2-point or a forked horn rule for legal to take bucks. This coming season, the 2015-2016 hunting season, now the entire state has been brought into deer management units with the addition of 10 new deer management units, adding up to a total of 12 deer management units. In hunting zone C, we've got, there's been 6 deer management units created in hunting zone C right here. Zone B was small enough that it didn't have to be subdivided, so zone B is just its own deer management unit. And then down in South Florida, zone A has been divided into 3 deer management units. Right there and there. Okay, each deer management unit has its own specific set of rules and regulations regarding antler point restrictions, and also is unique in the antlerless deer days that they offer on private lands. Deer management units allow the FWC to manage deer at a more local level, and the deer management units are created based on habitat, the characteristics of the deer herd, and also, probably more importantly, feedback by hunters. Through many surveys we've done, public meetings, and a technical assistance group, hunters, the hunters that spoke to us told us that they wanted to see more deer when they went into the field. They also wanted to see more bucks in the herd, and they wanted to have a better chance, a better opportunity to see and harvest older bucks. So because of that, each deer management unit now is either a 3-point on the side or a 10-inch main beam area. The areas in white right here are now 3-point on the side or have to have a 10-inch main beam, and I'm going to show you some examples of that in just a second. Or 4 of the units in the gray right here, these 4 are now have to have, legal to take bucks now have to have at least 2-point on the side. We're talking about a forked horn. These new antler regulations apply to all lands that lie within that deer management unit. We're talking private property, we're talking public land, and we're talking wildlife management areas. Also, the deer management units have unique and differing antlerless deer days. We're talking doe days on private property. The new antler restrictions are in place to protect most 1.5-year-old bucks while allowing hunters to be able to harvest 2.5-year-old bucks and older. Okay, we said earlier that Zone C, hunting Zone C, has been now divided into 6 deer management units. 5 of those units now require all legal to take bucks to have at least 3 points on the side or have a 10-inch main beam. Let me show you an example of that right here. Okay, this rack right here. This is what we're talking about. We're basically talking about like a 6-point, a rack buck. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And actually, just to clarify, this point right here cannot actually be counted as a legal point because it is not an inch long. And when you measure a point, what you do is you run like an imaginary line along the top of the main beam right about here, and then you measure from there to the tip of the point. And if you were to do this on this one, you would see that it's not an inch long. But this is definitely 3 points on the side. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, no matter how you look at it. So this is what is legal to take now. Well, in all of the white areas, 8 of the 12 deer management units. Of course, it would also be legal in the gray areas too, because they only need 2 points on the side. So this definitely qualifies. But I told you that these other areas, the white areas, are 3 points on the side or a 10-inch main beam. Let me show you an example of that. Here's a 10-inch main beam right here. This is a buck that this is a 4-point. This is a forked horn. Obviously, of course, this would be legal in the gray areas. It would be legal in the gray areas because it is 2 points on the side. Okay, and it only has to have one side. Let me point that out. This side right here could be broke off. That's okay. It just needs at least one antler with at least 2 points on the side. But the reason that this deer would also be legal in the white areas, therefore making it legal across the state, is if you take a tape measure and measure its main beam. And how you do that, you start right here where the antler comes out of the head, and you follow the bloodline all the way around to the point. If you were to do that, you would see that this is, I think, about 11.5 inches. So definitely more than 10 inches. So this is an example of a buck that has at least a 10-inch main beam. And the reason that we added that 10-inch main beam to the 3-point on the side areas is mainly for the deer dog hunters. If you've ever deer dog hunted before, you don't normally have the luxury, the opportunity to study a rack before you have to make up your mind to pull the trigger. So in the case where you thought you shot, a rack buck, it was a high-horned rack buck, and you thought it was at least a 6-point. You shot it. When you recovered the deer, you noticed that it didn't have the brow tines, these G1s right here, just like this one doesn't. But you would be okay because of the 10-inch main beam rule. C3, this deer management unit only requires legal to take bucks now to have 2 points on the side. So the rack I just showed you with the 10-inch main beam, that would definitely qualify. But this one also will qualify, and you can take my word for it, but that is less than 10 inches right here. But 1, 2, 1, 2, and again, that little point right there, that little brow tine, that is not an inch long, so that would not count. So this buck right here would not count in any of the state in the white because it's the main beams are not 10 inches long, and it does not have 3 points on the side because you cannot count that as a point. Okay, but it is 2 points on the side, and it is illegal to take buck in these 4 gray areas right there. Okay, I told you earlier that Zone B, because it is rather small, and the characteristics of the deer herd and the habitat, as well as hunter preference, dictated that it really only needed to be 1 deer management unit. That's around the Green Swamp Basin. That area is, like you say, it's in white. So we're talking 3-point on the side, either this or the 10-inch main beam. This is now legal to take in Zone B, which is its own deer management unit. Also, I need to point out there has been an additional rule change regarding Zone B, and actually even Zone C west of it. If you remember last year, if you hunted in that area, the western boundary of Zone B was not where it is right here. It was actually the Gulf of Mexico. So the northern boundary is State Road 50, which it still is. The southern boundary is still State Road 60, but Zone B went all the way to the coast. But because of what some hunters had told us, they had told us that, and the reason we even have a separate zone like this, some people wonder why why we needed a 4th zone like that. We created that Zone B because the deer rut very late in that part of the state, very similar to the timing of the rut in this area of the Panhandle. So we're talking about late January, February, even a little bit into March. So what hunters had told us, and we did verify this by some biological data that we were able to collect on these areas, is, and this right here, the new western boundary for Zone B is now I-75. That's Interstate 75. So the reason that we moved the boundary from the Gulf Coast to I-75 is because deer west of I-75, right in here, were running in November during that time, which is more in line with hunting Zone C. East of I-75 is when the deer were running in January and February. So we moved the line over because this area west of 75 is more in line with hunting Zone C. So if you hunt this area and you were used to hunting in Zone B, you now need to get used to hunting in Zone C, where you have the earlier hunting season dates. I told you earlier that Zone A has been broken out into 3 deer management units, with the southernmost units, A1 and A2, now requiring bucks to have at least 2 points on a side to be legal to take. The remaining deer management unit, the more northern one, A3, is now a 3-point on the side area, right? Or the 10-inch main beam. Okay, we don't need to go over that again. But there has been some additional changes with rules and regulations regarding hunting Zone A. The deer population has really dropped in that part of the state, and not only the Fish and Wildlife Commission, but hunters, would like to see the population of deer, come back. So what we've done is we have this coming up season, 2015-16, we have reduced the doe harvest in that part of the state. Basically, and I'm talking about even during the archery season, okay? Typically during archery season in the rest of the state, you can take deer of either sex, does and bucks, does and legal bucks, the whole 30 days or so, the full archery season. But now A3, it's been reduced. Now you can only take does during the archery season or antlerless deer the first half of the archery season. In A2, we've reduced it even further. You can only take antlerless deer during the first 9 days of archery season. In A1, where we've really noticed a drastic drop in the deer population, there's no harvest of does allowed at all. Not during the archery season, not even during the antlerless deer season on private property. Now, I need to point out a youth exemption, which is statewide. There's a lot of the hunters we talked to and the information we got back. A lot of people expressed a strong concern for keeping it kind of the old ways, the old 5-inch antler for youth. And youth, I'm talking about 15-year-olds and younger. So 15-year-old and younger hunters can still do it the old way. They can still, for them, legal to take bucks need to have at least a 5-inch antler or greater anywhere in the state. Okay, and let me show you an example of that. Here you go. Here's a cow horn spike right here, and trust me, but that antler is about 8 inches long, but definitely more than 5 inches long. So this buck right here is prohibited statewide for those of us 16 and older, but for those of us 15 and younger, you can still take these. Okay, I want to point that out. All right, the reason that we have that youth exemption is to encourage more youth to hunt and to retain those youth that are hunting, because we felt like that's going to give those youth hunters a better opportunity to harvest deer. So we think it's a good thing. And I do need to point out, because there's definitely some confusion. In the past, the 5-inch antler was kind of that was the dividing line between an antlerless deer, which is less than 5 inches, and a legal to take buck. But now for those of us that are 16 and older, a legal to take buck has changed. In these gray areas right here, remember, it's 2-point on the side. The rest of the state, it's either 3 points on the side or a 10-inch main beam. That means that if you're 16 and older, it doesn't matter if it's during the archery season. It doesn't matter if you have a doe tag. It doesn't matter if it's during one of the antlerless deer days on private property. You can't shoot this anymore, period. Not at all, okay? During archery, with a doe tag, and during antlerless deer days on private property, hunters 16 and older can only take legal to take bucks, and we talked about that. Legal to take buck. Legal to take bucks in most of the state. Well, this would be legal in all of the state, right? 10-inch main beam, 3-point on the side, and then of course 2-point on the side buck right here for the 4 gray areas right there. But that's illegal to take buck. This is an antlerless deer. The definition of an antlerless deer is either a doe without spots, of course, can't take a spot if on, or a buck with less than 5-inch antlers. These are about 3.5. So this is less than a 5-inch antler. So for those of us that are 16 and older, during archery season, with a doe tag on private properties, antlerless deer days, we can either take a legal to take buck which we've just gone over that, right? I just showed you examples, or an antlerless deer. And an antlerless deer is either a doe or a little buck like this with less than 5-inch antlers, okay? So there's kind of a slot limit now on what 16 and older hunters cannot take anymore, if that makes any sense. We're gonna let these changes that we made this year, we're gonna give it about 5 years to give it time to have an effect on the deer, on the herd. We're going to, at the end of 5 years, we're going to take a look at all the data, the harvest data, and even more important, we're going to assess hunter satisfaction and see what people think about the new rules and regulations. To see a more detailed map of exactly where the lines are with these deer management units, pick up a copy of the new hunting regulations handbook. We have it online at myfwc.com/hunting. Also, you can pick them up at tax collectors' offices and places like Walmart, I think have them too. You can turn to this page right here. As you can see, that gives you detailed information on exactly where the boundary lines are for those deer management units, so that you will be able to see exactly where you hunt, so there won't be any confusion. For even further information on deer management units and how and why they were created, go to myfwc.com/deer. I'm Tony Young with HuntFlorida TV. Thank you for tuning in, and deer season is just around the corner, so good luck to you.